My dream when I was younger was to be a YouTuber. If you've seen my video about free Ren, a video that I'm still pretty proud of, you hear me mention that one of my dreams was to be a YouTuber. I was inspired by people like Ryan Higa, Kev Jumba, and the like when I was in middle school, and then eventually, when I fully got into anime and not just passively like when I was watching Pokemon and Sailor Moon when I was younger, I was introduced to the world of anime YouTube, and one of those key figures was Gigguk. I remember watching his stuff when he was still making the Anime Zone videos. These reviews that got me my start into making content that I wanted to do. Make anime reviews, make videos about these series that I love, and just kind of talk about what made me love them. And from that point on, the more I would get involved in the anime community, the more I would get involved in making videos, he kind of never left. He ended up creating the first major popular anime podcast in Kotaku. When he left to pursue his career in the BBC and then eventually came back to YouTube and went in full force, he still ended up being on the forefront of the anime YouTube scene. Even now, he still stands towards the top, making the most influential, for better or worse, anime podcast on the internet. He made entries into Abridged content when I was into it, and now he comes out with his own anime.
Baan.
Now, again, you might be in the comments section being like, Shammy, you die for how long and now you're glazing an anime YouTuber even though you talk about how much you hate them. Yeah, I'm doing a little bouncing on it, but you have to hold on and listen to me real quick, because the thing about it is, I've always held the notion that despite how I may feel about his content, despite the way I might feel about the way he sort of navigates discussion, there's no one who really represents what this community is at its core than Gigguk. There is a reason why I think of any anime YouTuber to represent what anime YouTube is, Gigguk is the one. And after watching Bâan, I had that feeling again. I had that feeling of the first time I was influenced by this man. But I think before we get into what I want to say regarding that, we should first talk about Bâan itself. I am recording this quite literally immediately after watching Baan, the original anime short film with this story created by Gigguk. We know, of course, the way these sort of stories work. Despite him being marked as the original work and supervising director, he likely did not have as big a hand as you would believe just with his name on there. But as I'll get into, I think he has more influence than some detractors would believe. Directed by Yoshimitsu Ohashi, the director behind series like Code Geass, and with music by Kevin Penkin. Kevin Penkin! This guy? With English voice acting from some random person named Cindy Ponia was, I wonder who that is.
Talk to a therapist!
And my glorious goat ALEKS Lee.
Arise.
Oh, harder, Daddy.
This story was advertised as an isekai story with influence from Southeast Asian mythology and is essentially just about two people who go into a different world to pursue their own new lives. And again, for 18 minutes and 52 seconds, it is pretty much what it's advertised as. It is a short film meant to advertise future endeavors with this project. It shows off the animation style, introduces the world and the characters, and I think overall it did its job. I think Baan, all things considered, does the job of introducing you to this world and getting you interested in the characters. There are only two characters, Rin and Daichi, and the story kind of presents them both going on their own contrasting journeys. Daichi coming from a more contemporary, like normal Japanese society, whereas Rin comes from the magical world of Euthania, where she is a Euthanian. She has wings, she basically has magic, right? It takes them on their own contrasting journeys as they navigate their own lives living on their own. We cut back between the two, but we get far more of a focus on Rin. Right away, my main issue with it is just that, like, I'm not quite sure what's going on. For a while, I was convinced that there was nothing too different between the worlds because, like, I think there were just some people that have wings hanging out in the world until I found out that they are also someone who moved into the regular world of Japan. From what I understand, Euthania, where all the people with the wings live, is their own world, and they're connected to regular Japan through that giant portal that is a giant Evangelion reference. The entire series is, of course, an allegory for leaving home to find your own life and to find your own person, as the subtitle of the series is The Boundary of Adulthood. But I think what Baan has the potential to do, if this ever goes forward as a real series, is something that lies at the core of what most isekai stories are. If you're only familiar with isekai being trash shows that come out every single season, the concept of an isekai, the name meaning another world, is entirely behind the idea of one being transferred from one world to another, an unknown world where they have to find and learn new things. This kind of lies at the core of every single isekai story, from Re:Zero to Mushoku Tensei, Isekai Slime, Konosuba. Every single one of them deals with the idea of being transferred to another world. There's of course 3 different types of isekai stories: Shokan meaning summoning, Teni meaning transference, and Tensei meaning reincarnation. This type of isekai that Baan is of course the transference type. This is stories like The Devil is a Part-Timer or Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. And those type of stories use the different worlds and the fact that people can freely transfer between them to be a representation of one person leaving their home to enter a new phase of life. What Baan has the potential to do as a Teni isekai is to use that metaphor of separation to then really nail home the themes of adulthood. As the story focuses far more on Rin, there's far more of an emphasis on how, as someone who is fantastical in nature, finding their way in the bleak normal world of workplace society, she runs the risk of losing the magic that she was born with the end of the story reminding her that she can return home anytime. What I think finally sort of sold me on this, after a while of wondering why Daichi wasn't in the narrative, is the fact that their stories were presented concurrently, because Daichi's story actually takes place before Rin's. Rin was actually raised by Daichi, as it's revealed later on in the short film, and he, just like her, came from his own world to find a life of his own, to find his own person, to find a place that he was himself. But you see Daichi in his segments far more enthusiastic to leave the world he has behind. But even as he's irritated by the phone calls of his family, he still accepts the final one, ensuring that he's going to be okay on his own. To present this as a contrasting story with Rin, showing that he went on the same journey, really nails down that idea of one being influenced by another. While there isn't much to go off of, you can totally see this kind of story being influenced by the person who was behind it. This kind of story would be the thing Gigguk would write. There's the isekai influence, but also notably, aside from the obvious references to stuff like Evangelion, the art style and character designs being a little more grounded, all things considered, similar to shows in the 90s and the early 2000s, it presents this idea of someone going off into this unknown territory and finding happiness in that world. And I'm reminded again why I was influenced by this guy to begin with. When I watched his videos, I wanted to become an anime YouTuber. I wanted to talk about the things that I loved in the same way that he did. And now he sits here after being on the forefront of the anime YouTube scene for so long, being involved in so many of its different waves, and being at the place that it was only logical for him to be, on the staff of his very own anime. I realized once again that I, probably like a lot of others, am just following behind again. Here I am on this channel, lost as to what it is I want to do. If you watch my channel, you notice I haven't been around for a while. And here, out of the blue, the guy who got me on this journey to begin with does the thing that I've only fantasized about doing. The guy who was on the same journey I've been on is showing up again at the place that I want to be. And I'm reminded again why I was influenced by him. I've wanted to make my own stories like this. I've said it over and over again that there are stories that I want to make, influenced by this medium of anime that I love a lot. And there he is, ahead of me again. But furthermore reminding me that if he can do it, so can I. Baan, as imperfect as it might be, as obvious that it is that this is his first attempt at a story, I'm far less likely to really critique on it, because all I feel when I look at it is the reminder again that there's so much I gotta do.
Has there ever been a line you wrote in one of your videos that ended up really sticking with you?
I mean, that is a tough question. I don't even know where to begin with that. I've written so many lines about so many different shows, so many different anime that I don't even remember every opinion that I've had. But if I had to pick one, there is one that still stands out to me. And it was a line I wrote when I was talking about Porter Robinson's Shelter. And I remember this line vividly because it was at a time when I had just quit my job to pursue this YouTube thing full time, writing about anime, and I was nervous as hell. So I was in my bedroom, which at the time happened to also be my office, writing about this one guy who had gone out to Japan and collabed with this Japanese animation studio to make an anime music video. And I thought that was cool as hell. And I remember writing this line. It went at something along the lines of,
Porter Robinson has shown us that it's possible to live the weeb dream, that a single individual can commission an anime studio to make their own anime. All you really need is fame, a shit ton of cash, an international music producer, backing from some anime studios and companies, and a great vision with a burning passion.
Easy. Right?
God, this is gonna make this week's video so much more awkward. Anyways, BushM0 here, just wanted to make this quick little video talking about it. I'm coming back in a big way, so if you want to see new videos coming out, make sure you like and subscribe, and please check out Baan. I'm hoping this eventually turns into a full series, because again, if nothing else, I would like to keep being inspired by him.